I've been thinking more about the rise of single lonely men. I've been thinking about how men take men's advice on relationships and how they tell women to shut up and that they're stupid and they're overreacting. And to me, this just comes to a pinnacle of like men rejecting consent, like the larger concept of consent, meaning they cannot accept that there are some things that women want and need in a healthy relationship. They're like, no, she's overreacting. She's crazy. I am big, strong man and I make the rules and she must be submissive. And I would love to have a wife that I could fully control. I would love to have a wife that I could cheat on and she doesn't say anything. And so much fucking complaining instead of just listening to the millions of women, not just now, but throughout history, who have said, hey, yeah, we just want you to be nice and like stop being assholes. And they just fundamentally reject that. Fundamentally reject the concept of women having some autonomy over their lives and what relationships look like. They're like, well, I'm a man. You should obviously want to be in a relationship with a man. Otherwise, you're going to end up a lonely spinster. I think not, sir. You are the lonely spinster. Even when we tell men that they're being assholes, they're like, no, you're overreacting. Am I overreacting or are you desensitized? Because clearly your species isn't doing too fucking well in regards to gauging what makes you an asshole, what makes you insensitive, what makes you inconsiderate. And they have this idea of themselves in their head. They have this certain standard for themselves in their head. And when you show them anything about themselves, a mirror that shows them something they don't like about themselves, they reject it. They reject you. You're overreacting. You're crazy. And they just cannot accept that women might know what they're talking about when it comes to what they want, and that they should actually listen to that, and that they should adapt to that, because men really hate the idea of adapting. You know, they talk about masculinity being fixed and femininity being whatever, fluid, and it's to a fault. Where they're like, well, if I can't be standing in this mud exactly where I fucking am, and if I don't see what you're talking about in my personality or in my behavior, then it doesn't exist. And I shouldn't have to move. You can stay. You can stay stuck in the mud.
There is an increase in single lonely men.
I already spoke on this a couple of videos back, but there's more I want to say, especially with some of the comments coming in. And the thought I'm so fixated on is, why are these men so afraid of being alone? I already noted in my last video how comical I find it when these kinds of men doom us to a life of solitude and cats because we're unworthy of their high value existence. Like that's a bad thing? Meow. I've been around cats with more emotional intelligence than a lot of these men. And I don't need to clarify what kind of men I'm talking about because they're flocking to this article like mosquitoes to a fucking porch light to express their disdain. Not what the creator I stitched is doing, by the way. But all these other men whining and crying about this article and attacking the psychologist who wrote it are only proving that they're lacking the skill set that the psychologist identified they're lacking. But back to my original point, which is that these men can't handle being alone. They got off at the wrong station. They're lost time travelers who thought they were stepping into the 50s, a time where we had no choice but to marry them and settle for their bullshit because we weren't given the tools to thrive on our own. Accept all the ever-innovative gadgets and appliances you could dream of to help you be the ever-obedient housewife whose job it was to keep the dinner warm and shut your mouth so you could listen to the very important things he had to say. Do you know how fucking awesome it is to not have to marry you guys anymore? If you believe in reincarnation, well, fuck, maybe I was put here at a time and place where I don't have to live a doomed life of listening to my husband's bullshit fucking thoughts on politics of the day. If you're with the men who are upset by this article, you're just lost little time travelers. And you're dragging the ghosts of your half-witted forefathers into the podcast that you listen to and spawn to this day. Maybe it's time you got with the times and learned how to do your own fucking laundry. Because I'm sorry, but what is alpha about a man still bringing laundry home to his mother because he can't figure out how to use a washing machine? You guys can't even figure out how your almighty Tot is literally preying on your insecurities to sell you a pyramid scheme. Listen, we don't care if you don't want us, but you clearly care whether we want you.
65% of single women in this study say that Other single men do not live up to their expectations or standards and do not see them as long-term potential. So instead of giving my opinion on why this is today, I think I'm just going to focus on, the research. I'm going to focus on what the facts are, what I think the statistical significances are, and then I'm going to add in a little bit at the end on why I think this is actually happening. But first and foremost, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Evan. I run the account Performance Potential here on YouTube and on TikTok. And if you need help with your dating life and you want to understand why you're struggling so much, I want you to hit that subscribe button. Without further ado, let's get into it. The first reason that I find very interesting about this article that a lot of men don't understand, and it is an absolutely valid concern from women on why they are either scared to date men or not interested in dating certain men, is because men are creepy and because women are fearful of getting sexually assaulted or stalked. Now, you might sit there and think, I don't do that, that's not me. That's great, but it doesn't mean that we shouldn't be holding other men accountable for being absolutely down bad, for being absolute simps and weirdos. Truthfully, think about OnlyFans culture. Think about how much money certain men who are so desperate are spending on women just to get their affection and attention. So now you have to think about something. When women are filtering out these insecure, needy guys, they're doing it not just because they came on too strong too soon and they want something they can't have. They're doing it because a lot of the men who do that exhibit these characteristics that desperate men who might hurt them exhibit. Let me give you an example. I had a girl text me the other day and she said she was in an Uber and the Uber driver was like vehemently asking her for a number. I just moved here, like I live nearby, like I want to hang out with you. And she politely and respectfully said no, but this man literally kept asking, kept insisting. She couldn't leave because she was in the car. Very creepy and weird experience. Now think about if a woman goes on a date with a guy, she's in that restaurant or wherever with that guy, and if he's not doing things right, she's going to feel this odd inherent pressure to get away from this guy. So as a woman, women date with different fears and different apprehensions. As a guy, we're like, we don't want to waste our time, we don't want to waste our money, and we could get strung along by a woman for weeks or months and she could be talking to 3 other dudes. Both valid concerns, but you have to understand that these weird manifestations and representations that these actions of these guys are, they have bigger implications down the road for certain women. So one of the main things that women cite in this research study is that they are fearful of being sexually assaulted or have in the past, and they don't want that to happen again. And I think that is a very valid concern. So the second one that's talked about a lot in this article that's not really talked about a lot in the dating community is actually politics. Now, I don't really care where you align politically. If you're a Trump supporter, a Biden supporter, you voted for Hillary, Bush, Obama, I don't care. It doesn't matter. And the fact is, too, on a first date, that's not really something you should be talking about. Politics, previous relationships, your baggage, your thoughts on dating as a whole, I would definitely advise away from talking about that on a first date, because your job on a first date is to build the chemistry, build the romantic attraction, to move it forward towards a second date or some kind of, romantic interaction. That's really your job on the first date. So I really don't recommend talking about politics. And if it's something that she urges you on, if you want to take my advice, and you don't have to take my advice on this, what I would say is I like to take things on an issue by issue basis. And I don't always align myself to a person or to a party. And that is a very easy way of saying, thank you for the question. I don't feel like participating in this conversation right now, because the fact of the matter is when women talk about previous relationships in politics, they're trying to disqualify you. They're bringing it up because they want to find reasons why they shouldn't be dating you. Again, a lot of times women are trying to filter out the men that are not right for them or not ideal or not perfect, as opposed to qualified dudes who are really great for them. Whereas men are always trying to put women on a pedestal who are extremely attractive despite all the awful characteristics that they might exhibit on an actual date. So there's just a couple of other ancillary ones I want to bring up that were other pieces that women objected to men. Long distance, having kids by a previous woman. He lives too far away. He has a significant amount of debt, more than 10 years older than them, and makes significantly less money than them. So I know for you guys out there who want to talk about hypergamy and get all riled up about that, and I'm not saying I disagree with hypergamy. I'm just saying a lot of guys love to get riled up about that. It does absolutely matter. Money matters. Finances matter. But just keep in mind, those are some other ancillary reasons why women object to men and say that they're not up to par. So let me talk about, in my mind, what's actually going on here. Men are getting outcompeted by women when it comes to education, and now we're basically on the same level in terms of success. So If there are two people I recommend looking into and following their work, it's going to be Dr. Jordan Peterson and it's going to be Dr. Warren Farrell. And I really recommend that you watch the interview that they did about Dr. Farrell's book, The Boy Crisis. The fact of the matter is, everybody loves to talk about how women are so disenfranchised and oppressed and everything like that. And to a degree, women have to deal with a lot of bullshit. I'm not going to disagree with that. Men also have to deal with a lot of bullshit. Men are falling behind. Let me say this again. Men are falling behind. And if you do not have the ability to become the man that women want to be with, you are going to continue to fall behind. Now, in your mind, you're probably thinking to yourself, some of you are like, Evan, I don't care. Evan, it's not worth it. The juice is not worth the squeeze. It's not worth my time to get better because I don't care what women think. That's fine. You do whatever you want, right? I don't focus on the negativity. I don't coach guys that are like, I'm above self-improvement for women, or I'm above self-improvement because I'm fine the way that I am. I don't really work with those guys. I work with the guys that want to be the best versions of themselves and as a byproduct, attract women, right? You're not just becoming a better version of yourself, getting in shape, making more money, becoming more intelligent because you want to attract women. That's a good byproduct of it. You're going to get more options, but you should be doing it because you want to improve your life. But one thing you need to understand is women are now outcompeting men when it comes to education. And also, they're getting paid the same, if not more, in a certain age demographic and an age bracket. Now, when women get into their 30s, they're having children out of the workforce, different ballgame. I'm not going to get into that whole economic conversation. I'm not a doctor in sociology, so I'm not even going to go there. But my point is, you have to understand that women do want to date up. Women do want to date men who are as successful as them on paper, and they want to find a guy that they can look up to and respect and be in their feminine energy and allow that man's masculine energy to put them in that feminine energy state. So if they feel like they're out competing a man or they are doing much more than him, the only men they're going to be going after is that top percentage of guys. Those guys are super hard to lock down because those guys don't want to commit because they have all the options with women. So my point is, instead of just giving up or blaming women for having all these unrealistic standards, you have to make yourself better, right? And as a byproduct, you're going to get more options with women. But what I want you to do is I want you to click on the next video that I did that's about the 3 most desirable characteristics that a man can have. Because if you are a man who feels like he wants to get better, he wants to get more options with women, and you're willing to do the work, I want to tell you, it's research back, the 3 most desirable traits that a man can have. So I want you to click on that video that's next. If you have a question for me, leave it down below in the comment section. And if you like content like this and you want to work with me directly and see more of my content, hit that subscribe button. I'll talk to you guys soon.